He said all set.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Begin the meeting with a moment of silence. This meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA. I'd like a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like a motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now it's time for public forum. If there's anyone here who wants to speak on something that's not on the agenda, now's the time to do it. Yes. Don Byers, but I don't know her street address.
Don Byers, 20 Russell Road. Thank you, Chair and members of the board. I was not able to attend the last meeting on December 15th when you had a joint meeting with the Finance Committee, so I wanted to add some comments about the free cash and financial policy that was discussed. Thank you to Sean Kane for providing copies of those documents. I had a chance to review them. And while the free cash policy is clear and disciplined as far as the allocations that are made into the stabilization accounts, the language in both policies, I feel, doesn't go far enough to provide safeguards to make sure that today's decisions will, in fact, be better for the long term. That was a comment that Sean had made during the meeting, that implementing the financial policy will be better for the long term while it may have short-term challenges. The challenge specifically with the financial policy is that it is largely procedural. It explains how certain steps occur, but it does not provide enough guidance on how financial decisions should be evaluated before those steps are taken. The current policy does not define a structural deficit, does not require multi-year financial forecasting, and does not require analysis of alternatives before major financial decisions are made. Strong municipal financial policies are more than a set of procedures. They establish measurable targets, require long-term financial forecasting, and demand clear public explanations when difficult decisions are made. For example, in the last meeting, Mr. Evans shared that the current financial policy states the stabilization fund should be maintained at 5 to 10% of general fund operating expenditures. What exactly does that mean? If we take 5 to 10% of the $44 million in expenditures, that range is 2.2 to 4.4 million. So Mary Beth Carter, town administrator, explained that that balance is currently 3.3 million. So we're right in that sweet spot. That was the word that was used. But then the next moment, there was suggestion about talk of revisiting that free cash policy, which would mean to stop adding to the stabilization account and perhaps putting more funding into the retirement liability. That free cash policy was just dated 6 months ago, March 25th of 2025. So I come here today to mention that we're already considering moving away from a policy that we just set 6 months ago, is what I'm hearing. Clearly, the policy does not even provide clear guidance on what to do as far as altering the plan that you've already approved. If a $3 million stabilization balance is within that range of 2 to 4 million, what would the next steps be? Some might say we would have $1 million extra at our disposal to spend, or others might say keep funding it until we reach that 4 million. Still others might say stop funding it altogether. This is where the policy lacks clarity. Decision-making becomes vulnerable to political interpretation, even when everyone involved is acting in good faith. So my request tonight is not about any single budget decision. It is about improving the governance framework that supports all decisions for the community. I respectfully encourage the Select Board to acknowledge the limitations of the current financial policy and begin the work of strengthening it by adding clearer standards, long-term planning requirements, and accountability measures. Doing so would ensure that when the policy is cited, it truly provides guidance rather than ambiguity. In closing, I just want to recognize that also at the last meeting, it was acknowledged by the board that there is no 5-year capital plan right now. It was identified as an area of improvement, but then a follow-up comment was made that the capital plan may take a back seat for 5 years. I see this as an enormous red flag, and wonder if this delay is the result of anticipated reduction of the Plymouth County retirement liability coming in 5 or so years. I leave you with the last reminder that on page 1 of your current financial policy, it does say the town must ensure there are sufficient funds available to reinvest in its fixed assets and infrastructure. It doesn't talk about taking a back seat. So if that investment requires a debt exclusion vote for any form of capital improvements or infrastructure, I hope this board will consider it.
Thank you, Dawn. It's reached 7:05, so the first item of business is to correct an oversight from our last meeting. We were to have a joint meeting with the Board of Assessors at the last meeting to vote on the appointment of Brittany Cavallo to fill a vacancy on the Board of Assessors. However, we voted to appoint Brittany Cavallo without having a joint meeting with the Board of Assessors, even though the Board of Assessors was here. So I'll take responsibility for that goof up. I'd like to correct it right now. Can we please have the Board of Assessors approach? And could we have a motion to appoint Brittany Cavallo to fill a vacancy on the Board of Assessors through May 16th, 2026?
I will make that motion.
Is there a second? Okay. And we'll do this by a voice vote just to make sure that everything is
roll call.
heard and official. Yes.
Motion to appoint Brittany. Second. For the board.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Christine, yes.
Heidi, yes.
Okay.
It's done.
I think that's okay?
I do.
We all set? Okay, now we have the vacancy on the Board of Assessors
We're out of
filled.
the 30-day window now, which means you guys could have just done it. Isn't that funny?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now it's time for a public hearing with respect to the petition of the Mass Electric Company, doing business as National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated, to install one pole number 1-30, beginning at a point at the center line at 215 Linden Street and continuing approximately 25 feet in the west direction toward the edge of the road at 199 South Avenue, and to install strut guides on existing pole P number 1 and new pole P number 130 on Linden Street to balance forces. This hearing was tabled at the December 15th meeting. Is someone here from Mass Electric?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Did I go to the wrong place?
No, you're the right. No, you can be there. That's fine.
All right. I'm Jared Aker, representing National Grid at 100 East Ashland Street in Brockton. These poles are the pole is to supply power to a new customer. It's going to hold a 3-phase transformer bank, and then the anchors are to support those poles, or the pole.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Oh, simple, huh? Yeah.
Okay. Everything has been handled.
Yeah.
Yes, I checked with Lori, and yes, there's one fee that the town clerk gets, and she'll reach out for that. But the fees that this office was to receive, we received.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you guys very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
What are these yours?
Yeah,
So you want to take the documents with him, or
He's already gone.
that's okay. Yeah, we can get them.
we can sign them?
Yeah.
Or does the clerk have to sign them too?
If our seal is on there. If your signature's on there and you want to sign there, then.
Okay. You know what, the clerk has to sign these also, right?
I believe so. on those.
Okay, so we
Yes.
can do this later.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, it's reached 7:10, a public meeting with respect to the application of the Auto Group Incorporated for a Class 2 dealer's license on the premises located at 575 Bedford Street, subject to the receipt of the license fee and final inspection approval of the building commissioner. Someone here from the Auto Group? Is it Mrs.? Yes.
Yes, so we just applied for the lights over there. I don't have much to say, and it's gonna be nice. That's what I can say. We're gonna make that place looks beautiful.
Anyone have any questions?
Has the building inspector looked at the property? Everything's
Not
fine?
yet. The first step is here, so then he's have to go there, so we can get the license.
Yeah?
And I believe that the license fee is $100. So it's, upon receiving that and the approval of the building inspector, which is common practice.
Yep.
Okay, someone like to motion to accept it?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Chairman's report, I don't really have anything to report tonight. New business, act on the request of Town Clerk Don Varley to appoint election workers for 2026 in accordance with the list provided, and to set the annual town election hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Reminder of the winter parking ban. To make this public, and it's on the website, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. from December 1st through and including April 1st, overnight on-street parking is prohibited. No person shall place or cause to be placed any vehicle which shall interfere with the removing or plowing of snow or the removing of ice in any way of the town when snowfall is predicted and for 48 hours after snowfall has stopped. The Department of Public Works, or those acting under its orders in the lawful performance of their duties for the purpose of removing or plowing snow or removing ice from any way, is hereby authorized and empowered to remove or cause to be removed to some convenient place, including in such term a public garage or any vehicle interfering with such work, and the owner of such vehicle shall be liable for the cost of such removal and the storage charges, if any, resulting therefrom. So, the important thing is from December 1st through and including April 1st overnight, on-street parking is prohibited. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
Does that also include town parking lots? They have to plow them. I believe that was an issue that they had.
Yes, yes.
Joe?
Yeah.
You want to answer that question?
Yes, it was the town lot right next to the church. That parking lot is town parking lot. Bruce Martin from the DPW stated that first trial run we had with that dusting we had the other day, he said, in his words, it was horrendous. So too many cars parked on the roadways. It doesn't have to be a snow or ice event. Between those dates, there's no parking at all. In addition, when it snows, they're not supposed to park. So we've had an issue with it. We don't want to cite people, we don't want to tow people, but we're left with no alternative, and we're trying to give everybody a heads up so we don't have to take that action, but it's going to happen pretty soon. So we've been putting plenty of warnings out on vehicles, and the next option is to cite and then tow.
Joe, I have a question. That also includes the parking lot for the senior center, the parking lot for the police station,
Correct. All those places where they have to
clean them up.
sand,
Yeah.
salt,
town hall. Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
And they do it early, so they need to be out early and do that, so it's been an issue. It's been an ongoing issue for quite a few years now, so,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, old business. Corthell Building.
Corthell Building, yes. So the decision that the board will need to make is whether or not we want to sell the property, lease the property, or keep the property for municipal use. So I did contact some realtors to come out and do a market analysis and give an appraisal. So one has come in, one actually I'm meeting on Friday, and one with the holidays when they get back from Europe next week, they're coming in to do that. So once we get all that information, we can have a future meeting at the end of January. Not the 12th, the night of special. I don't
Right.
think that would be a good time. The meeting after that, and go over all that information so that we can move forward in some direction with that building.
Can I ask a question? Could you have the building inspector go through that entire building and see what it would cost for repairs if we wanted to use it for town use?
So, actually, the building inspector went through with the facilities director and with the wiring inspector, and the roof is old and past its useful life, showing clear signs of deterioration, would need to be replaced in the near future. Of course, the age of the building, I'm sure this is asbestos and whatnot in the building. The electrical system is up to code. That's good. The heating and cooling system, it's heated by an older steam boiler system supplemented by mini splits that provide both heating and cooling. The boiler is old and not, super energy efficient. The mini split systems are approximately 7 to 8 years old. The life safety systems, the elevator is up to code. It's in very good condition. The fire alarm panel is also in good condition. However, there would be repairs that would need to be done, to bring it up to use. Would want to, if we decided to go that way, or whether we should sell it and, use those funds or lease it.
Yes, Sean.
Consideration on the lease side, which is something I'm definitely interested in. What preparation can we do to get some sort of ballpark figure about potential lease options? Is there, for me, I have an educational background, so I'm thinking the regional school district has partnerships with the collaboratives, North River Collaborative, Pilgrim Area Collaborative. Could we maybe reach out to some of them to get like a little bit of an idea? If this was a space that you were using, how much would you currently lease it for? That kind of thing. So we have some sort of information to compare with whether we should just hold on to it for our own purposes or sell.
I could certainly do that and have that information along with the market analysis.
Yeah.
And then you could evaluate all of that information in one meeting.
Yeah.
I would maybe suggest you ask the district, not the collaboratives, if the collaboratives may be the ones leasing it in the future. Just avoid a conflict there where they try to lowball us.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just talking off the top of my head, but whether there are educational partners or there are other municipal partners that we can think of that may be interested in that building, just for some potential options to consider.
Sure.
If I could, before we did something like, if we were to decide to do something like that, we would have to spend the money to do the repairs on the building. Because to lease it out with knowing that repairs are needed, I think is kind of a dangerous thing to do. If they have equipment in there and all of a sudden the roof is leaking and it ruins their equipment or something like that, or if the furnace goes off and the water freezes up, the water line. So I think if that's the route we go, we should look into doing all the repairs to make it healthy for anyone to rent it out.
Yeah, I think we should consider all that. And ultimately, the decision will go to town meeting.
Yeah.
If we were just held on to it, it wouldn't. But if we were thinking about selling the property.
Or
it would
leasing.
Or leasing, would have to go to town meeting.
That's correct.
So ultimately, it would be the
May
town.
town meeting.
Yeah.
May town meeting. Okay, so I will make a note on that to get some information on leasing for the January meeting.
Thank you.
I have one topic I'd like to add to this, if possible.
Sure.
Miles Cluck, 52 Alden Street. I know I'm a newer face here. So I'm in newer resident, newer father, so I'm kind of interested in this Head Start Academy. It seems to me kind of short-sighted to even think of selling it. So I was doing some research into maybe grant opportunities that could assist with the cost of the cleanups. I know I did some research. It was called the EPA Brownfield which is like federal funding. And that could like with asbestos, lead paint. So I think if you guys could maybe couple that with a, learning center, daycare, whatever, for the young families of this community, I think that would be a good way to maybe use federal funding to assist with this type of costs, And I know doing some research and like the town maybe isn't an aggressive with the grant funding opportunities. I know there's a lot out there infrastructure-wise, so I'd maybe consider maybe aggressively trying to go after that money while it's still there, because we all know it's drying up, right? So I would maybe consider that before selling it, because just knowing how property is, to me, it just seems like that location is prime, right? It's like for a daycare, the park, it just seems short-sighted to sell, no offense, but,
Option?
All right, that's all I had to add.
Appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. This building is real important to the town, I feel. It's been a sleeper building because for more than 30 years, we've now realized that it's been occupied by a nonprofit organization which does really good work in the field of early education Head Start program, supporting low-income families and students on IEPs in need. And those students come right up to our school district, so they're our kids. So I am sorry to hear that it's vacated from that organization. And I'm just thinking back to a few years ago when we worked on the strategic plan, and we talked about facilities in town. And I don't know that this building was even mentioned as a town-owned building, but we now know the town owns it. And now we're talking about possibility of, securing proceeds from the equity and just selling it, but it's an asset. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, your financial policy talks about, sorry, I'm just going to have to look at this page 1. The town should ensure there are sufficient funds available to reinvest in its fixed assets and infrastructure. This is our infrastructure. And you don't sell an asset for short-term gain. There's a lot of potential there. And I think a lot of people have different views, too. I heard at the last meeting that, the senior center director maybe wasn't interested toward it, but we have families in town. We don't have a teen center, right? We hear time and time again, the kids are riding bikes in the street and they're ruining the park. Where can the kids go? This is an option, right? Maybe it's a historical museum. Maybe it's a combination of a veterans office, additional support areas. I just think there are so many needs. I hear about the asbestos, but there were children in there, so I don't know. Maybe that was already taken care of. The boiler being old, how old is it? What I am going to do is volunteer. And when the Camp Alice Carlton land was up for discussion, a steering committee was formed to discuss, and time was taken, and meetings were had to discuss what to do with that property. So I'm going to stand here and tell you I'm volunteering to be on a steering committee or some form of committee to look at this building and look at the community needs and really discuss how we can best utilize it for the future for the citizens. I did look, and in addition to those grants the gentleman mentioned, Massachusetts has ADA improvement grants. So we know there's a ramp out front, but ADA access to the back where the parking lot is, every year, Massachusetts has given ADA improvement grants. Abington just got $100,000. Situate, $138,000. Hingham, for 3 years in a row, Hingham got $250,000, $100,000, $45,000. When I was on the school committee and we'd talk about per pupil expenditure and comparing towns, first thing people would say is, don't compare us to Hingham. We don't have the same tax base as Hingham, right? No, we don't. It's different tax revenue, I get it. But Hingham's also getting grants. And what grants are we getting? To support our citizens, to support our taxpayers, okay? So maybe Hingham can afford more things in their school budget and their town budget because they're getting those grants to support those additional expenditures that we're saying right now is a cost, and it's used as an excuse to dump a building and an asset, and I don't want to see that happen. So I'll do what I can to help.
Okay, thank you, John.
Actually, today I received information on the ADA grant opportunity. We're looking at that for a couple of reasons, so we will be working on that. That was something that came through that we were discussing today.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yeah, Sean.
Just to follow up a little bit to Don's feedback, which I think is helpful. I think having people doing research and asking us questions is really appropriate and an important part of the process. I think my interpretation of financial policy and yours is slightly different. The way I interpret financial policy as being more of a living document, that in conjunction with like the strategic plan, it's stuff that we should continuously be going back to and revisiting to make sure that it's in line with, how we're tracking forward. For instance, Plymouth County retirement. It's a major issue for right now. It's a huge budget dilemma that we need to negotiate. But that is in negotiation. Other towns are also considering Plymouth County retirement. There's also some pressure on the county on potentially extending that. If that was to be extended, for instance, then we'd go back to our policy and adjust, how we're potentially thinking about our free cash. So there is some give and take, I think, with our financial policy, so that it is, especially early in the budget process, we kind of set our assumptions so that when we calculate our budget, I think it's moving us in a direction that we want to go in. And I think that's important. It is part of our conversation. We obviously can get better at this process, but I think the way that we're interpreting our financial policy is really appropriate. As far as the capital, I do think we have made progress with our facilities plan. We have a facilities director. I think one of the reasons why we're talking about this is because he's been over there and, giving us advice about this. So we've certainly made progress in these areas, but there's certainly improvement to be had. All good stuff, I think.
Thank you, Sean. Anyone else?
Yeah, I do. In answer to some of what Don mentioned, I agree with you on a lot. I mean, I would like to see a youth center there, but unfortunately, running a youth center costs money, and the town doesn't have it. If it's you can turn around, where do the kids go? Well, they can go there, but an adult has to be there. And are we going to get volunteers to do that? I don't know. Same thing with a museum. Oh, I'm fighting for a museum a long time. But again, mostly a museum is done by volunteers because it's open to the public, but not like on a daily basis, like a children's play area, like you're suggesting. And I'm just saying, is recreation going to take over that? And if that's the case, are we going to need more personnel? And do we have the money for that? My only concern. But I would love to have used that building for something for the town, that one of the needs. But I'm looking at the affordability. It's that simple. It's like I'd love to have a garage to my house, but I can't afford it. Wish I had a garage, That's my only concern. Mary,
Okay.
got one more.
Shall we move on to the Park Avenue School?
Park Avenue School. Okay. So we have discussed this at prior meetings, but we need to make a determination so that town council can move forward with the process. In whether we need to let council know whether the town wants to sell that property again, or use it for a town use, municipal use. So just a couple of things that I'd like to mention. I had spoken with one of the relatives of the Clark family, and she stated it was actually Cheryl Clark, the great niece of the original owner. And her comments were that she would hate to see the property sold by the town. She'd also hate to see high-rise buildings built on the property. She stated that trees on the property were shipped over from England. Some of the trees on the property are very rare. She attended the Park Avenue School as a child, later taught at the school as a kindergarten teacher. And she said the family would maybe happier if the town were to be used as the site of a new fire station, senior center, food pantry, or a school for teaching fire safety. But that was her her feelings on it. And so she said if there was anything, that she could do in the whole process with our attorneys or whatever, that her comments would help, that she would like to just voice her concerns.
That was Mrs. Clark.
That was Cheryl Clark. Do you know her? Yes.
She was my kindergarten teacher.
I didn't know that.
Okay, yes. Yeah, she was lovely to speak with. Yeah.
There you go.
It's funny.
We also had an email from a Whitman resident, Michael Adams, and he said he'd like to see it as a vocational type of craft center with different crafts and skills taught there. And he's stating that he was in the Army in the early 80s, and his base had a craft center that offered the ability to do several different things there. There was ceramics, painting, photography, woodworking, auto repairs, and body work. He thought there also could be a culinary section and a food-producing section also, a separate greenhouse, garden area on the grounds, a technology section, a sewing section for clothes making as well. I know this would be a big undertaking, and there is asbestos abatement to be considered, but that has to be done regardless sooner or later. I would plan it like a gym. You join and get a membership and be able to use the facility. Summer and school vacations could be set aside for kids out of school to use for a fee. Insurance would be tough for woodworking and auto repairs, but I think both would be big attractions to a lot of people who have those interests but nowhere to do the work. So that was interesting. And then recently, Ryan Tressel. He came in, and a couple of us had a meeting with Ryan, and his idea, let's take a look, his proposal is to use the property as a community space in a way that does not require any demolition or construction or doing anything that would impact the town's ability to build there when the proper timing and funding opportunities present themselves. Placing temporary art installations and historical signage, as well as allowing artists to create artwork on the existing building, would make use of the property in a way that would celebrate the culture and the history of Whitman, but that would not permanently alter the site, and importantly, could be funded by Cultural Council grants and Community Preservation Act funds. The only foreseeable expense to the town is some cleanup of the site, which currently has branches and debris in the parking lot of the school. The school building itself is unusable, but the exterior walls could be used for the creation of a mural, or alternatively, the boards covering up the windows could be used as canvases for individual smaller paintings. This is a project that could be taken up by the high school art club, keeping to the school purpose only provision in the deed, or to local Whitman artists. In this case, either the Cultural Council or a newly constituted committee would approve any artwork before having it added to the building. Let's see. While Whitman has used community preservation funds to purchase plaques for historic places in town, CPA funds could also be used to create interpretive signs that could include text, illustrations, and photographs highlighting the history of Whitman. Communities such as Abington and Canton have used CPA funds for signage like this. These could be placed alongside the paved walkway that leads from South Ave to the school building. And also, Ryan mentioned that a Whitman resident, Steve O'Brien, reached out with the idea of commissioning a sculpture to commemorate the citizens of Whitman we have lost to suicide, to be hosted on town land. I've had informal conversations with the chair of the Cultural Council about applying for CC grants to fund the creation and installation of the sculpture. So those are a couple of ideas that Ryan had and brought forth. A lot of good ideas.
What we're hearing actually is that there's no sentiment whatsoever to sell the Park Avenue School and to put up a high-rise. What we're going to be able to tell the attorney, to tell Peter, is that no, we're not going to sell the Park Avenue School. We're going to find a use for that area, which will eventually mean raising the Park Avenue School and putting something else there. But in the meantime, Ryan has come up with a great idea to use that property for good, for the good of the town, for the good of the students of the town, and I think it's terrific. And it's going to take time to figure out what to do with that area, with that property. But it's not going to involve selling it.
I agree. I think that's a clever idea. And, Danny said what we can afford. Like what we can afford right now is going to be different than what we can afford 3 years from now and 6 years from now and 10 years from now. Putting on a bit of a holding pattern and still, doing some cool artwork and that kind of stuff, maybe getting some kids involved, it allows us just to hold on to the property, kind of weather the storm a little bit, and then when we have more, hopefully when we have more stable financial grounding, the options for what we might do are much greater. So.
Oh, and I was just going to kind of echo that. Yeah, short term, I think Ryan's suggestion to find an appropriate school use, whether through art students or something like that, is a great way to meet the intent of the deed, while simultaneously asking council to seek relief from the school use restriction in the deed toward something more long-term. My dream for that property has been a community center. So something that, right, bring the senior center in, bring the veteran services and bring rec in, have a space for teens. I think that's what's most needed in the town right now. But that building is probably $20 to $30 million. We've got a middle school of OTech and a DPW building that we're paying off for the next 20 to 30 years. So I don't see that coming soon. So I guess the question is, how specific can we get for our lawyers to try to get us removed from that deed restriction? And then what funds could we potentially use to raise the building in the near term rather than waiting 20 years to take on new debt to build a community center? If that's what it looks like our timeline would be, maybe at least 10 years, I would think, to start paying down some of these projects.
I don't mind the suggestion. I think if we can find a use for it, but as far as, I think you read painting the outside of the building.
Some panels or murals that would go on the windows or on the side of the...
Before we did that, I think we should ask the people that live on the street, is that what you want looking out your door? Painting the streets or painting the windows or painting the outside of the buildings. I mean,
I believe your idea is like installations that can be taken down and then replaced with another one. They would be
yeah,
approved
I'm
by
just
the-
saying, depending on what it is, you may want to ask the people that live on the street, would you mind that? I mean, they look at it every day.
Anything will look better than what they're seeing right now.
Oh, right, without a doubt, right. But I'm just saying, I don't know.
My question maybe for council is, do we give specific enough, of an idea of the direction, or do you need something more definitive than that?
Or would a letter from the niece who used to teach and work in the school assist us in that process?
So I think that our concern, the town purchased this property a long time ago, and there is a provision in the deed that says that the property is to be used for school purposes only. And there's a question of how binding that is on the town. If the town wishes to use the property for other purposes or wishes to sell the property, there could be a question raised of whether it's prevented from doing so based on that provision. I don't think that that's been totally resolved at this point, but we have contacted the charitable trust division of the Attorney General's office, who said, essentially, if you can tell us a municipal purpose that you're using it for, we're much more likely to support whatever you're intending to do than if you can't tell us what you want to do with it, or if you just want to sell the property. Then we might have to take a closer look at that provision and see if we think that it's a binding restriction. If the town is not converting the use of the property, I don't think that it's a good use of resources to go to court to get anything resolved. And I think that when you know exactly what you want to do with the property and the use that you want to apply it to, that's when you would give us that information and say, what do we need to do in order to make that happen? So if it does end up being a community center or, open space or, any of the other ideas that have been put out there, I think that's fine. I'm not sure, art installations would alter the use of the property. So I think, if you, as a board and with feedback from the town, have decided or decide this is the path forward, this is exactly what we want to do, I think that's the point at which my office can tell you, all right, well, then this is the next step.
Does that include, if the next step was, I don't know when, but say 3 or 4 years from now that we were going to tear it down, and then the decision to build a community center was, say, 10 years from now, right? So would we need permission just to tear it down, to keep it in the holding pattern, and then the decision was made 10 years from now? Does that, you know what I'm saying? Like, do we
Yeah,
need...
I don't believe you need, I don't believe that it's converting the use to raise a decrepit building.
So that might take away some of the sense of urgency as far as that.
Yeah. And I looked up what Hanson paid to tear down the McQuon School. They appropriated about $1.5 million. I don't know what they spent out of that, but that's probably the ballpark we're looking at. So I don't, free cash to spend in capital this year is about $600,000. So it might take a bit.
It seems like it's clear that the temporary use of a building you're going to raise involves having the art department of the high school use that building to furnish an opportunity for students to exercise their ability to create. How isn't that educational? How isn't that an educational purpose? And then when you talk about the probability, or you could even say, you could even make it more definite than that if we put our heads together, is to create a community center that involves educational activities for youth and for grown-ups and for elderly. Isn't an educational purpose? I don't know what is. I don't see why that's. I really don't see why that's violating the purpose of the trust.
It'd only be if we decided to sell it.
No.
Just because, I'm saying if town
We're
meeting...
deciding not to sell it.
Right.
And everything that I hear tells me that there's an educational purpose somewhere in what we want to do. Even the temporary idea of Ryan to use the ugly building that no one took care of as an art project.
So we're good?
No, I did teach logic at one time, and it seemed logical to me. Sorry, wasn't my kindergarten teacher that taught me that, but
But I was just
I'm
thinking.
too old to have gone to kindergarten.
I was just thinking, if we want to put art on the outside of the windows and things like that, the art would have to be processed somewhere else and then put on the building. Because they can't be in the building doing it because there's no heat, there's no water.
No, they're not in the building.
not in the
It's on the outside of.
Right, but I'm saying, if they're going to draw something, put it on there, you're saying it's stuff that can go on the window and then come off and they put another one on, right? It's movable. Well, that would have to be done someplace else, not there. Because they can't work in the building. There's
Why
nothing
would they be in the building?
Because there's no heat, there's no hot
But why
water.
would they be in the building?
Oh, to draw, to paint.
No, they're being outside.
They paint on wooden things and then they, off the windows, and then they take the wooden things off.
Graffiti style.
Yeah, graffiti. Yeah, exactly.
But not on the brick walls.
No.
No.
Do we need a motion? Are you looking for a motion?
Okay, tell me what the motion is for.
We don't need one, right?
What?
We're good?
No, but I think we should. I do think it's important. We've sat on this for 20 years. I was in high school when this building closed, so it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I think we should have some sort of a plan to move forward rather than just revisit it in 5 or 10 years.
Good. Come up with a motion.
All right.
That's good.
I don't really have a motion, but I did pull up the deed just to say, so yeah, it is, the property is to be used by the town of Whitman for school purposes only. So it's not, we can't have someone else conduct school.
It doesn't say educational
It's the
purpose?
town of Whitman and school purposes. So those are the restrictions.
I'll make a motion that we use the property in the short term in a way that's in line with Ryan's suggestion, as we develop a strategy to ultimately raise the property, wait a period of time where the intention is to consider a potential community center.
I like that. I'll second that.
I'd just like to say that the building really does need to have something done with it sooner rather than later, the condition of the building and for safety and, water in the basement and God knows what else in there. It is something that does need to be dealt with sooner rather than later. So I would like to see us move forward with this in some way to accomplish that as well.
Then I guess a follow-up question would be, should we pursue some kind of a debt to raise the building in the short term, just to get an open space that can be used for art by the schools in the interim while we wait for something bigger?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So I think we do, short term.
Can you add in your motion that the painting will not be on the brick walls, just in the windows, so it can be removed?
Why are you worried about that?
Well, because I don't want to drive by and see the school with all this all over the brick. I'm not going to say it.
You don't want a graffiti-looking building.
Right,
Right.
right.
I
I'm
understand,
not-
but I don't think that's what
Right.
Ryan's intentions were at all. Somebody,
Oh,
Carl?
Yes.
okay. She's used to that.
This ought to be good.
Oh, she's from New York.
Number one, Ryan, I like some of your suggestions. You had a number of them. The one thing I can see, I do see Mr. Salvucci's point about the neighbors. I think it should be on a town level of a vote. I don't believe, and I'm with Mr. Kane on this, please do not sell anything. God ain't making any more property, okay? That's the deal. By the way, I was a landlord, a home, and it seems to me that if we lease it, as far as what you have to pay to fix a boiler or whatever, that is deducted. Now, can you take the profits if you lease it? I am not sure of that. I guess it would depend on who you lease it to. Are they nonprofit or whatever? I do not want to see the art because I can see a hassle over that. I can see, I don't want to mention the word graffiti, but God knows, and yes, I'm from New York and I've seen it, and it's been all over. It didn't stop with just a billboard. It went on to the trains. It went on to a lot of things. We do have some in my hometown. They're very tasteful, but that was private ownership that gave the artist permission with a sketch. I don't want to see, I don't know which committee would oversee that, but you would get into dilemmas over censorship, what you think you want. And I'm with Mrs. Salvucci, do not touch the outside of the building if it can be removed. But even I see a problem with that because we can't agree on too much. As far as all these ideas, I don't want anything sold. I know I'm only one voice here, but it seems to me people are anxious to sell property now for short-term reasons. And I'm suspicious of that because, like I said, no more property. And I think we should save. It stood for 15 years. Didn't stand that long in Hanson. They took it down. It did cost $1.5 million because they felt the roof and everything. They had slate shingles on that roof. Guess what Mary Fox would have done? Everybody pays $5, $10, whatever, gets their shingle, and we use it somewhere else, whether it's a pathway, whatever. I've seen it done. It may not raise $1 million, but at least it knocks off something. Property owners are they just can't pay anymore. Okay? I'm single, I rent, and I don't own a thing. So I can pay. I'm very fortunate. And I'm willing to pay for schools. But I want to remind you of one other thing. We've already embarked on the middle school in our town. And part of that proposal was to give the community space. An auditorium was insisted on. Much too many people agreed with that. It took a year for meetings to come to which grades would be in there. I couldn't get always to the library to answer your question, Mr. Kowalski, because I don't drive and because I walk with a walker. The bottom line is I would be there, and I watch everything they do because the school is our primary thing. However, it's not primary with everyone. I don't have skin in the game. My granddaughter's graduated. I certainly am not earning a living. And yes, I am so tired, and this is repeated over and over, and I can get a copy. Those kids, I don't want to hear a word about those kids. I'm in Dunkin' Donuts, and those kids, whether it's to credit the teachers, the parents, I did hear your wife accredited too. I watched the graduation. I am all over. Okay, I got nothing else to do. I'm retired. I don't join committees, and I'll tell you why. Because it's my way or the highway. Now that may not happen in an open thing, but I know I'd be obnoxious on a committee, so I don't join committees. Period. They wanted me on school committees in New York. The big word for that semester was a consensus. I sat there. I don't care if it's 9 o'clock at night. I had a 2-hour commute. I'm not afraid of the dark. I sat there. They said, but Mary, you must join the consensus. I said, no. My voice is not going. Don't even put my name in it. Nothing. Guess what I hear from the rear of the room? Mrs. Fox is a very passionate woman. I didn't know passionate was a okay word. My head swiveled because it was the principal talking. I was like, oh my God, passionate. That belongs in your marriage, not in a collegiate conversation. I know that's how old-fashioned I am. But the middle school, getting back to that, I know there's a big issue over that. However,
We're on Park Ave right now, right?
Park Ave, I don't want that sold. You sat on it for 15 years. I say sit on it for another year. I do not think well, your idea, one of them is something for the library's already for the elderly. I've been there, done that. No, I don't volunteer for that either. I don't need to. Someone else, we got volunteers in this community get $2,000 off their property taxes. My definition as a volunteer is free. I don't care how old you are, nothing. You volunteer, it's free. The next thing is we do have that auditorium, the gym. They said it would be a good spot for the community because it is relatively in town, if I have my geography right. And I think it would be an opportunity. It's going up. It's a done deal. So why are we jumping into, and I don't want to hear any deferred stuff either. My parents only dealt with cash, so I'm not used to it. I deal with cash also and checks. I do not defer anything, period. You got 3 things. The police station, that was up when I came. Don't get me started on all of this, but don't sell a thing, please, because it'll be a gain short term. But we need to just settle the things we've got now, and don't sell something just because you need the cash. Not the way to go. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Okay, where are we? You making a motion?
So I think amend the motion that Sean made to prioritize raising it sooner than later, whether that's bonding or a capital exclusion or something. Let's find a way to get the building torn down, allow some sort of a school use art installation to work on what would then be an open space. We'll put up something, work with the school to come up with that, and then seek a community center when our debt schedule looks better.
I'll second that amendment.
You seconding an amendment or a motion?
Whatever, yeah, I'll make that motion.
Making a motion, not an amendment to an emotion, okay?
Okay.
Did you get that?
Give us a goal.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion of that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Is that of the amendment or of the motion?
Great. Regal property.
We withdrew the original motion and made a
Okay.
separate one. Thanks, Peter.
Okay, Peter? Okay.
Peter, did you get what you needed?
Regal property? Yes. Okay, so a few meetings ago, we had a presentation about the Regal property, and there is some, contamination there and what could be done. So now the question is, do we move forward with foreclosing on the property? The town does not own it. We stopped when it was in tax title. We were urged not to foreclose on it because of the contamination, but now we have had meetings and presentations where there's grant money that would help us. If the town moved forward with foreclosure on that property, we could apply for grants. And I did speak with Nick Giaquinto again today just to confirm, and he said it's about $617,000 in total that would need to go into that property to clean that up, to get it back on the rolls. And one of the most important things is we get back on our tax rolls. So he said there's a mass development, brownfields redevelopment grants. They give up to $750,000 for remediation, which is a larger amount than he had thought. There's EPA brownfields grants that between $500,000 and $4 million. That was also more than what he had thought. And mass development site readiness grants, no funding cap, but they range from $100,000 to $700,000. He said that they would definitely help us with all those, apply for those grants. It's what they do. They're really good at it. He said it would take, a few years once the town owned the property. You'd apply for these different grants and hopefully get some money each year and put that into the remediation. But get it to a point where there's 2.5 acres there that could be developed into maybe a mixed use, like the property in Hanson. That would get it back on our rolls. The reason it would be appealing for the grants is because it's near the MBTA. It's creating some more housing, so he feels it would be an ideal fit. So, does the town want to move forward with foreclosing and owning the property? And if so, then we'll move that to our tax title attorney for foreclosure. And that always takes a year or two, year and a half process anyway to foreclose on a property. The owners could come forward. That always happens as you move forward. However, I did pull what is owed on the property right now in tax title, and currently with interest, it's $791,977.25. So that's a lot of money for somebody. The owners have not wanted to pay taxes on it. They don't want to, be responsible for the cleanup. So, do we move forward with this to foreclosure? Do we want to own this property and then seek grants and get it back on our rolls?
I think we do. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that, and if I can jump in. So Nick also came to the Economic Development Committee we had last month, talked about, among other things, this property as well, and where it's situated in the middle of our MBTA Communities District, in the proposed 40R district. It is, the likely use would be housing or mixed-use development next to the train station. It is like the prime example of what these brownfields grants are used for. Brockton was really successful doing basically the same thing, contaminated, old shoe factory land near train stations. So I'm pretty confident we'd be successful. It may take a few years to get it cleaned up, but I think even the town taking it and seeking grants to clean up the property is better than the current contaminated property next to the train station. So even, ideally, ultimately, yeah, we want it back on the rolls to start generating tax revenue for the town and to put something better than, burned down shoe factory there. But
and it will be a process. It will take
it'll be
years to
years.
apply for these grants and get it in, and apply the funds to the remediation. But
I have a question. Do we know who owns it?
yes.
And we can't sue them for what back taxes?
No, so what the process is what we did. We took it into tax title. Years ago, I was about to move forward with foreclosure, and the tax title attorney said, Mary Beth, stop right there. Talk to the selectmen. You need an environmental attorney. So at that time, Frank brought in an environmental attorney. They did all kinds of work on it, and there was a site assessment done then. But now with more, they're looking for, so much housing in the state, and it's the MBTA, it's right there, and there's grant opportunities.
So theoretically, we don't have to pay the tax title, right? So theoretically, we're letting $700 and something thousand go, and we take the property in its place. So basically, we're buying it.
And a lot of that is interest. So it's $295,000 or whatever in tax, and it's 16% interest. That's what's been building over the years, and it's been many years. But in order for the OCPC, for the work to be done, they had to get permission from the owner. And so we do know the owner. The owner did give permission for the brownfields assessment. So we do know who the owner is. So we can
And we're just taking it from them.
we took it into tax title, but now we would move forward with the foreclosure process.
Okay.
And then, because we can't seek grants for this,
Right.
it's not our property at this point. It's only in tax title, and the owner has, the ability to pay it off, not pay it off, see it go into foreclosure. But until we own the property, we cannot start the grant process and the cleanup or future use or getting it back on the rolls.
So the
It's
owner
not
has to
our
give
property.
permission for us to buy it from him, right? Like,
It's
get
not
it from him.
buying, it's not buying.
We're taking it over.
And it's not permission. We would just move forward with a foreclosure proceeding and receive, a petition, a judgment in court saying that it's now owned by the town. After the formal process, publications, all the steps that we go through every time a property is foreclosed upon. It's a legal
Yeah.
process. Takes a year or two.
Probably costly, too.
There's the cost, attorney's costs, of course.
Is there anything that can go wrong as far as the cleanup is concerned?
Well, I said, are there any guarantees that all this grant money is going to be there, right? I mean, sometimes
So could we buy the property and then have it not cleaned up?
we're not buying the property, we're just taking the property, so we're not paying
Oh, no,
anything.
Okay, so we're taking the property.
We'd be taking the
Is there any
property.
possibility that we can take the property and have it never be cleaned up?
We would
Because we don't
apply,
get grants for it.
right, and if that happened, it would just be like it is now. The homeowner is not cleaning it up.
And people will still be getting cancer.
We would want it cleaned up, and from what we're
It seems like a
seeing-
solid step forward
It
where we can
does.
reasonably get money to clean up that property and get it back on the rolls.
And in the phases that Verdantis presented to us, there were multiple steps of remediation. The base level one was like 200 and something thousand, which was just the contain it process. So that is the minimum that we'd want to do. Like at the very least, that's the step we'd want to take. So even if we took it, we struggled to get grants, we could take that first 200 something thousand to contain the issue.
That one area.
Yeah, that one area, and then seek to get the other 400 something thousand to make it a sellable parcel.
But they would help with the entire process. They feel that there are several different avenues of grants out there, and that this location and, everything about it is exactly what they want to give the grants out for, to see these properties come back on the rolls. But yes, I mean, can I sit here and say we're going to apply for these grants and we're going to get $200,000 for 3 years? No, there's so many funds to go around for the whole state. They look at it, they look at where it is, they look at if it's going to produce some housing. So,
Right, and the wetland we can't build on, do we know if that's contaminated?
so the wetlands out there, that's not buildable. I'd have to take a look here.
I think there was a former landfill that was partially in the wetland, but that was capped and contained.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it was
that we did
that
that
would
years
not
ago.
be buildable, but it is contained contamination.
Right. So there's different areas here.
As if-
Area
Yeah.
capped and uncapped, some of this area. There's, I don't know if you remember the large map that was up there, but
Yeah.
it's 2.5 acres at the front of South Ave, basically next to where the store is, and if they even took that property too, of course, they would have to buy that. That's a different owner. And the owner of the barber shop, and that could be bought as well and connected to this 2.5, but somebody owns that.
I think it also fits in well with the South Ave corridor project that we've been thinking about for a long time. I think it
The
really
TIP
does.
project.
Yeah, it checks a lot of boxes for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Better than just sitting there.
It's been sitting in tax title in the same condition since I came to the town. I mean, 24 years, so
Right.
it's an avenue to possibly, get it cleaned up and get it back on the rolls.
We have a
As
motion
long
and a
as it's
second.
cleaned up.
Right.
As long as we have the ability to get grants to get it cleaned up.
They feel very strongly that there's grant money out there and that this is an ideal property for grants. Like I said, no guarantees on how much we'd get each year or which grant we would receive.
It is promising that we did get a grant to study the contamination, even though we didn't own it. So this was a collaborative brownfields study grant with OCPC. It was Whitman, Hanson, and I think one other town that you jointly went in on this, which is why Verdantis did the study for us. So that's at least that first indication that, yes, grant money is interested in this property.
And if you're familiar with the property in Hanson, right on Main Street, that's a much smaller footprint than what is pointed out here that's buildable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we have a motion and a second, I think.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah,
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep. Clean it up.
Okay, Whitman Middle School, IMA.
Yes, so I had sent the intermunicipal agreement out to you, and I had noted at the last meeting that there might be a change that the DOR wanted to see in this agreement. And so that is in the financing of the project, page 3, section 2. And basically, what this is saying is that the town would borrow the funds, and then they would turn over to the district payments after a payment requisition was voted by the building committee, signed off by the OPM, and submitted to the town. And then we would release that amount of funds within 5 days. So basically, the intermunicipal agreement, I do have some information from a letter that bond counsel wrote that I think is important for people to understand why we're going forward. The reason I suggested it is I'm not even sure that the 24 audit has officially begun. A couple of weeks ago, they hadn't quite finished up the 23, the letter or the last item, and the auditor from CLA said that they weren't starting the 24 until that one was completely wrapped up. So I'm just going to take part of this letter that Richard Manley from Troutman Pepper Locke, the bond counsel firm, wrote, and he wrote this to MSBA. But he said, and I'm just going to summarize here, take a couple of paragraphs. Accessing the credit markets. In September of 2023, the district authorized the borrowing of $135,289,673 to pay costs of demolishing the existing Whitman Middle School and constructing a new Whitman Middle School. Under the terms of the agreement establishing the district agreement, Whitman is to be assessed for 100% of the debt service on account of the project, net of grants to be received by the district from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA. To meet its annual capital cost assessment on account of the project, the voters of Whitman approved a debt exclusion to raise their annual assessment for the project outside of the property tax levy limitations of Proposition 2.5. So to commence paying cost of the project, the district issued $30 million bond anticipation notes in 2024. They matured in May of 2025. At that time, the district had intended to issue bonds to permanently finance that portion of the project's financing. However, no bids were submitted at a competitive bond sale held on May 1st, 2025, because the district lacked audited financial statements for fiscal years 23 and 24, and because the lack of audited financials had resulted in a suspension of the district's credit rating by S&P Global Ratings. On the advice of the district's financial advisor, the district was able to negotiate the sale of unrated bond anticipation notes in an amount sufficient to renew its maturing bond anticipation notes. They were necessarily priced significantly higher than they would have been if the district's audits and credit rating had been available. They mature in March of 2026. Beyond the need to finance the renewal of the bond anticipation notes in March of 2026, the district will require additional funds of between $30 million and $40 million to meet additional payments for its share of the ongoing work on the project. The district's outside auditors, Clifton Larson Allen, indicated that the audited financial statements for fiscal 23 should be released shortly, and that was as of December 15th. And that they would then commence work on the audited financial statements for fiscal year 2024. It's not clear whether the audited financial statements for fiscal year 24 will be available with sufficient time to obtain the reinstatement of the district's credit rating and sell new bond anticipation notes in late February or early March. So at present, there are effectively two financing options available to the district. The easiest, of course, is to obtain the audited financial statements for fiscal 2024 in time to get the district's credit rating restored and conduct a competitive sale of bonds or notes. Given the uncertain timing of the completion and release of the fiscal 2024 audit, as well as the lead time necessary for getting its credit rating restored, this option does not appear to be realistic. A second option is to have Whitman authorize the borrowing and finance the project in place of the district. So that's what this IMA really is to do. It's just going to be in place. If we approve this this evening, if you sign it, and then the school committee signs it, and then we have the article in a motion, not the IMA. This does not need to go in front of town meeting. It's a backup plan that come January 15th, if the audit isn't done. I personally don't see how it can be done if they haven't started it, or just recently started it in the past week. That we'll be able to go out. We have our fiscal 24 audit done. We're now, we've signed our documents for our 25 audit, so we're starting to work on that. So we have a rating, and we should be able to go out to the credit markets and borrow at a better rate. Now, the school, if they don't have their audit, it's not that they wouldn't be able to borrow. Again, I feel they would be able to borrow, but they're going out as an unrated. So therefore, they pay significantly higher interest rates. So I think in the end, what does that translate to? It's what the taxpayers end up paying, because we have to pay the interest. They did want to go out to bond when they took out the $30 million last year. And they couldn't, so they took a 10-month ban. I'm thinking that we would go out and bond this $70 million now. Not that that would be all that needed to be borrowed, but at least for now, pay off $30 million and have another 30 or 40 to keep the project on track and moving forward at a better rate than the district would. We have the special town meeting coming up. It's an opportune time to address this. If we didn't now, we wouldn't be looking at this opportunity until May, except the $30 million notes come due in February 18th. So.
So looking for a motion?
I think, and I'd like you, yes, to approve the IMA and sign this document this evening.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Could you ever see the schools getting a better bond rating than our town?
Getting a better bond rating, not now. No.
And we're just borrowing not the full amount, even though we're paying the full 300-something million.
No, so it was 135 million
Right.
on the original. I just received a first amendment to the MSBA project documents. It's now 126 million, so that's the number that will appear in the motion. There's an article of motion for special town meeting.
Right.
So they do have the capability of borrowing up to that amount, which is scary, but they have, it's 63.31% reimbursement of eligible costs, but there are always some ineligible costs. So
Now, that amount of money you just said, that's the full cost of the project?
it's now 126 million
Right.
some odd, correct?
Do we go out and borrow all that?
No,
Why not?
because what we do is we go out and borrow, and then we submit for reimbursement, and then they get reimbursement money in, and they spend what comes in for reimbursement as well. So no, we don't want to borrow. I wouldn't even want to borrow now 80 million, because really it may end up the net that it comes out to 71 million or something.
Okay, and the schools have jurisdiction on how to spend the money, or just the building committee?
So the building committee, I
Right.
mean, they did the whole process and approval with MSBA. So even though the town would take over the borrowing, nothing changes. The contract with the OPM doesn't need to be redone, the MSBA documents, the architect, they will still apply for the reimbursements and all of that. In this document, MSBA will send the money for the reimbursements to the town, and then we'll turn that over to the district.
Right, so since the town is borrowing the money, the school committee, the committee the building committee for the middle school needs to understand that they need to control the spending.
Well, they have a very detailed budget that they follow. So, yes,
Okay.
they wouldn't,
Okay.
they would follow.
I just,
And Justin, you're on the committee as
well,
well.
I'm not on the committee, but
Justin is.
I'm just saying, the schools are financially in trouble because, no audits and stuff like that, but it has nothing to do with the building committee.
No, so the building committee is still running, I mean, similar to VOTEC's building committee. We're meeting
Yeah.
monthly, approving
Yeah.
invoices. Yeah, it's running through the process. I think they held one MSBA reimbursement back because of an accounting. It didn't line up between what they'd tracked that they spent and what the contractor had tracked that they spent.
Right.
So they sorted that out over like 2 months, and they're submitting it now. But other than that, that seems to have been flowing.
I just don't want them drawing any money using it for something else.
Well, and if the town maintains the money rather than sending it to the district every 5 days after we get it, I think that would help at least alleviate that concern.
And just, financially, they have issues, and I don't want them using that money for something else for the schools.
They wouldn't receive money from us until we receive the signed requisition for
Right,
the
from the
invoices that were
project, yeah.
approved by the committee
Right.
for payment. And once we received all the proper documents, then county or the treasurer would wire over the money or for that particular month's bills.
Our town treasurer, right?
Ours.
And they would be looking at what it's being spent on.
They're not the ones that are approving the expenditures. I mean, it would be the building committee.
But you would see what it's being spent on.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
And the building committee is what, half, not, I mean, it's all appointed by the district, but it's roughly half representatives on the town side and roughly half representatives from the school side. It's a teacher, a principal, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, building
Yeah, okay.
business manager, chair of the school committee, but then also me, Mary Beth, Josh. Trying to think who else is on the.
Bob Curran.
Kathy Otina, yeah, chair of the finance,
Otina.
vice chair of the finance committee now. Bob Curran, former building commissioner. So it's a pretty good
Okay.
subject matter expert heavy committee.
And the
Okay.
accountant here would be looking at all the documents that came in to make sure that it met the standards before we release the funds.
Okay. So we need to vote?
All in favor?
Great, if we could sign that document.
Town administrator's report is next.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention that, of course, we have a special town meeting planned for January 12th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. So we don't have that little newspaper anymore, and so I just want to put that out there. We'll be putting it on the board out front. But just a reminder on that, there are 9 articles, I believe. 9 articles. So that's all I have there.
So we meet at 6.
Okay. We need to go into 3 executive sessions tonight? Yes.
How can we share the warrant with people, so if they want, someone to say, I want to read through the warrant before, like, where can they get access to it?
Oh, sure. So,
It's posted.
right, but I'm not, I'll put it up on the website. I'll put that up on the website. It's been posted. The town clerk has posted. I've sent it to Dawn as well.
The right number of constables have posted it in the right number of locations
Right.
around town, yeah,
Right,
per our
right,
bylaws. But
right. So we
it's not
have that
necessarily
done.
an accessible, yeah.
We had that done, but we'll also put it up on the website for people to see.
Great, thank you.
We need to go into 3 executive sessions tonight. I'll read them all, and we'll come in open session only to adjourn once they're over. First executive session is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than the professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a town employee. Second executive session is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. And that's with the Whitman Police Association, Mass Cop Local 494. The third executive session is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and that deals with Camp Alice Carlton property. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Your second.
Yes.
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 Okay, we're in executive session.